Congratulations.
I do. I'm looking for it, huh?
Look for it.
No, don't. كيف الحال؟ الله يسلمك. اهلا وسهلا. اهلا وسهلا.
Yeah, you're double impact. Maybe you need to hit it for them to know that
Yeah,
you are ready.
yeah.
Is this step talking, huh? السيدات والسادة، طاب مساءكم. ننتقل الآن إلى البند الرابع من جدول الأعمال، الوضع المالي للمنظمة والبرامج والميزانية. لقد ناقشنا هذا الجزء خلال اجتماع اللجنة المالية، كما تم التطرق إليه بإيجاز من خلال المشاورات الإقليمية أيضا. ولتوفير الوقت ستقوم الأمينة العامة بتقديم هذا البند على أن تتم مناقشة الوثيقة واعتمادها يوم غد، وعليه أدعو سعادة الأمينة العامة لتقديم عرض حول الوضع المالي للمنظمة والمتطلبات التنظيمية ذات الصلة وخطة إعادة هيكلة الأمانة. تفضلي.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We have decided to give you some heads up on a document that we will be presenting to you. If you please upload a very brief presentation. And essentially, the reason why we decided to just accelerate a little bit a discussion for you to consider what I'm going to explain to you now is essentially because since we gathered this week, we got many comments from different members expressing their concerns, comments, questions regarding how we are going to move forward under these financial challenges. And you were also looking for answers in terms of, well, what we should prioritize and how we should prioritize. As you know, and I've already briefed you on this, I presented to you document number 4 that is going to be discussed tomorrow. And in the INF document there, you found many details on what is going on in terms of the reorganization of the Secretariat. There is nothing new there that you don't know. And also approving this reorganization of the Secretariat, what I've achieved is a real a strategy to reduce the costs of our structure, to generate some savings. And of course, I am also providing you ways forwards in terms of how we can reinvest the resources should them be available. What currently is not the case. So the reality, and I know that you are all aware, the reality is that unless things change, we need to be prepared for what it may come. And this is something that is concerning you. And of course, it's concerning me as well. And we need to identify priorities. So the context, as you can see in this slide, is we have liquidity constraints, and this will require prioritization choices for the 2026-2027 under the regular budget. And one main component of putting this idea forward to you is that we know that any prioritization will impact members, will impact you essentially. Some members may be more impacted than others. So my proposal would be to set up a time-bound task force to propose deferrals or prioritizations or deprioritizations of the strategic objectives and or operating plan elements under plausible financial scenarios. That is something that we need to take into consideration because given the timeframes we have ahead, certainly we need to address this challenge collectively. I want to highlight again that what can be done from the Secretariat perspective has already been put in place and you've been informed about that. But if we need to move ahead in a situation that is really challenging, as you know, because we presented this to FINAC, we will be running out of funding by 2027, and we cannot wait until 2027 to have a strategy in place. So I hope that you agree with me, and that strategy certainly needs to be discussed with all of you. That's why we are here proposing two possible pathways in terms of how we navigate a time frame from now to the next Executive Council. And that could be to create a joint Congress Executive Council task force or a Congress-only task force. The two ways forward I'm putting for your consideration have the main idea of being as inclusive as possible, to bring ideas from members regardless their status in terms of whether they are or not members of the Executive Council. So what could be the effect of having this task force in place is you will have the synthesis in the next slide, please. So we need to identify financial scenarios that essentially are based on assessed contributions timing and earmarked voluntary contributions that may come up, and all the cost containment measures that I put in place. So this will be a piece of information for this task team to work in the review of activities. What should be deferred, what should be deprioritized, and the timing and the financial impacts of those decisions. Then, according to the evolution, this is something that is changing, that is exposed to the financial challenges and the uncertainties that we are all navigating together. We may need to submit recommendations to EC80 and to Congress. So this is just to briefly introduce to you that we will be uploading a document where you, of course, will be the ones deciding whether you want to create this task force, whether you want to create it in any of the two alternatives that we are presenting. And this task force could be in place after Congress and could work till at least next Executive Council to make sure that you as members are informed and are taking part of the decision making even before any decision is taken, but to make sure that we navigate this with enough time for me to take the actions if they are necessary. So it's a very short presentation. And again, I want to highlight that I am providing this information to you because so far I did whatever I had at hand And it's under my responsibility to put in place cost containment measures. But if nothing changed from now to 2027, we cannot allow ourselves to arrive in 2027 without the essential funding we need to run our operations. So we need to prioritize. And I cannot be the one selecting what to prioritize. You are the ones to guide us on what do you want to prioritize. So that is what I wanted to share with our members. President, thank you very much.
شكرا لك الأمين العام. والآن تعليقاتكم عن ملاحظات الأمين العام. Chile, تفضل Chile.
Muchas gracias, presidente. En primer lugar, quisiera felicitar a la secretaria, digamos, por la presentación que ha hecho de la situación de urgencia que tenemos hoy día respecto a las finanzas. Y creo que así como uno ve la situación personal en su casa, ¿cierto? Tiene que priorizar cuando no alcanzan los recursos. Por lo tanto, esta casa es un poco más grande, tenemos más de 190 miembros y obviamente que creo que la única forma de llegar a poder en el fondo financiar lo que realmente nos interesa es que podamos generar esta fuerza de tareas en donde en el fondo determinemos realmente lo que podemos llegar a hacer con las finanzas que tenemos. Por lo tanto, apoyo, digamos, la idea de nuestra secretaria general. Y bueno, por supuesto, me gustaría que fuera lo más ampliado posible y que Chile estuviese incluido dentro de quienes van a determinar, digamos, las prioridades que se van a ver a futuro. Muchas gracias.
شكرا لك سيدي. شكرا.
Okay.
Do we take today or tomorrow? What do you think? Huh?
I think that maybe it's better to allow the doctor to know and then explain to them that the document is uploaded for the analysis, and if they to propose any further amendments, they have the date. So tomorrow we will discuss this document. Okay.
إذن أترك الفرصة لشخصين وسوف نكمل غدا صباحا مع وجود الوثائق للاطلاع عليها. بريطانيا تفضل.
I think I have the
Yeah, thank you.
إذن بريطانيا.
This is good.
United Kingdom.
Yeah, I have live now.
بعد أوروغواي. شكرا على البيشن. تفضل أوروغواي.
So I think my mic is live now, Mr. President. Shall I go?
Hello. تفضلي.
Thank you, and apologies to Uruguay. I'm not trying to take their slot. So thank you very much, Madam Secretary General. Very strongly commend the work that has been done and the necessity to consider further prioritization on a basis of realistic scenarios. Since you have posed the question, I definitely have a preference that this work should pass through Executive Council, not because we can make the decisions on behalf of the whole of Congress, but because, as we have found with the elections, we can ask many of the questions that will be asked so that answers can be prepared. And that way, we will not be trying to do something so complex without having had member scrutiny ahead of Congress. So I would prefer that we do route through Executive Council. Thank you.
شكرا لك. شكرا. أوروغواي.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Bueno, agradezco el trabajo realizado por la Secretaría General en estos tiempos de crisis financieras, y para poder definir mejor los proyectos a priorizar, que no es una tarea fácil. Y apoyo totalmente la creación de este Task Force para pensar cuáles son los mejores, como un grupo que asesore al Consejo Ejecutivo y después al Congreso. Gracias.
شكرا لك. وبهذا أختتم ونكمل غدا الموضوع. سوف نكمل غدا الموضوع، لأن ألاحظ الدكتور مهابوترا زعلان علي أخذت من وقته. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to inform members that, of course, you have the opportunity to meet informally as a group after the session, perhaps to discuss, to consider the proposal that was made by the Secretary General, and hopefully come with some prior agreement, consensus towards an approach that then can be best explored tomorrow, rather than discussing directly in plenary, and maybe many details that may be challenging, all things considered. So there is, of course, again, the possibility for you to gather and perhaps some chairpersonship or some leadership that could go through a little bit some of the details. And I believe perhaps there is.
The PR of Tanzania.
Yes, and indeed, I believe the Tanzania would be happy. I see they have the flag raised to facilitate also that group. So we have available Salbi, I think, from 5 to 6. Salbi is right in front. So you can convene and perhaps discuss informally, and then tomorrow morning when there is the plenary, things perhaps would have moved already a step forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
شكرا ستيفن. إذا دكتور مهابوترا. No, he's not here. Where is he? You. Good luck.
Where are we? Have we made any progress? No. Think we'll be successful? No.
I think eventually it will end up that it goes Yeah, we don't have anything else, as is. We don't have this excuse. And then we were. And died then anyway. That's okay.
Hello. So welcome back. I think many of you may not be in the mood to continue in the discussions, but still we have to carry out our work. And we have just commenced with discussions on the elections and appointments. The first one we discussed about the appointment of the Secretary General. There was a good interaction and we could find out many suggestions and comments, and that will be taken care. I think we'll move for the second one. Yeah. So we'll move for the second agenda of this discussion, and I'll request Mr. Daniel to proceed ahead.
Okay, so thanks very much. We're back after that interlude. So the next part we're going to discuss is what we call the enhanced dialogue. So remember, keep the eye on the prize. The idea is that we can change these rules and change these regulations for the next elections, which are coming up in 2 years. So that's what we're intending to do between today and hopefully tomorrow, but as much as we can do today. So the next discussion we're going to have is on the enhanced dialogue. So we now have candidates who want to compete for Secretary General, but we don't know a lot about them. So what we've decided to introduce is the idea of an enhanced dialogue, which essentially is a conversation between you and the candidates. So if you recall the Congress that we had 2 years ago, where the Secretary General's candidates, the candidates themselves, just gave a little bit of a biopsy of themselves, it was very much a one-way street. So the idea here is to have a two-way conversation between you as members and the candidates. What's their goals for the organization? What do they intend the organization to be like in the 4 years or the 8 years in which they're in office? What do they know about meteorology or the sciences that are relevant or you consider relevant and important? So that's the enhanced dialogue process. It is something that is starting to be rolled out across the UN system. In fact, the United Nations themselves are going to have something similar for the Secretary General in the future. And it's something that I think we can have within the organization. And it's something that went through the task force and executive council as a way for you to interact with these candidates in a way that allows you to make the decision when the election time or the appointments process comes. So it's presided by the secretary, it will be presided by the president, and candidates will be offered, or candidates will be asked questions by you after a brief presentation. So let's go to the particular provisions. Don't worry. So we have two changes, one in relation to Regulation 150 and one in relation to the rules of procedure that will accompany the position of Secretary General. If I start just very briefly with relation to Regulation 150, the original text, and I'll pass that over to New Zealand at this stage, but I understand the original text will stand. Is that correct? Yes. So the original text in Regulation 150 will just simply say, shall be determined by Congress. The enhanced dialogue, the process shall be determined by Congress. And in Annex 3, the rules of procedure, again, if you scroll down, these are minor edits, but essentially it just allows candidates to be quizzed by you. I leave the floor open at this stage if there are any comments or amendments.
May I request Tanzania, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair and Vice Chair, Vice President. I also take this opportunity to express my appreciation to the explanation provided by Daniel, our legal expert. But previously I asked this question about the significance of this dialogue. What is the outcome? If it's not ending with some, decision, then so what? Because at the end of the day, it's just to hear the candidate experience, perspective, and then that is all. At the end of the day, we are going to vote. So when we say significance, enhanced dialogue, to me, I found it to be difficult to see the importance and significance of it in terms of decision making. Yes, it will help us as the members to hear more insight from the candidate, but at the end of the day, the ultimate decision would be to vote. So why should we spend much time on this?
Thank you very much. May I now request Monaco, please?
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Vice-président. C'est une mesure à laquelle nous sommes favorables. Ce même type de processus a été mis en place au sein de l'OMS suite à la réforme de l'élection du directeur général. Et cela a été une expérience extrêmement intéressante. Alors, effectivement, il n'y a pas de décision collective qui soit prise à la fin des entretiens, mais pour chaque pays qui doit ensuite se positionner et voter pour un candidat, C'était extrêmement intéressant parce que si on pouvait hésiter, certaines des réponses, les attitudes à capacité aussi à répondre à des questions parfois difficiles, cela a pu nous aider dans notre choix national au moment du vote. Donc, nous sommes tout à fait favorables à peut-être de façon, on va dire, expérimentale, pour la prochaine fois qu'il y aura plusieurs candidats en lice. Mais c'est une expérience assez intéressante pour les États qui doivent se prononcer. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. May I now request Jackie Republic, please? Jackie, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On contrary to the position and question from our colleagues, distinguished colleagues from Tanzania, we would like to express our full support to the inclusion of the enhanced dialogue, as of course, it doesn't end up with the decision of the Congress, but it's crucial for the decision of each delegation. And we really welcome the way it's proposed to be organized, because we understand that having a rules of procedure is very important for anyone, both on the sides of members as well as potential candidates for the position of Secretary General, to know how the process runs. So with that, we express full support to that, and we think it's a very well drafted and very well designed process. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Now I request USA, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just briefly express our support for the positions as expressed by Monaco and Czechia. We also agree that this is a valuable and promising way for members to familiarize themselves with candidates for Secretary General.
Thank you. Any other comments or suggestions? Any online participants? May I request Pen, please?
Muchas gracias y agradecer el trabajo realizado en esta estupenda propuesta. Desde España también aprobamos el planteamiento y creemos que es positivo que los candidatos se sometan a las preguntas que puedan hacer los miembros de este Consejo sin perjuicio, en el sentido de que puede ayudar luego a la toma de decisión sobre qué votar, o sea, a qué candidato votar. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I don't find any other comments. Do you want to respond, please?
I don't think so. I mean, as it currently stands, it's a question and answer session, so it's an opportunity to have that dialogue. I think we can move on to the next one. I don't think there's anything else to be discussed.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next PowerPoint slide, please. So the issue that we were confronted in 2 years ago was the discussion about what type of majority we wanted when we appointed the Secretary General. And the practice is, and still is, that a Secretary General is appointed by a 2/3 majority. And what we wanted to do here, sorry, if you go to the next slide. Thank you. What we wanted to do here was to ensure or affirm that that 2/3 majority existed. So there is no doubt in anybody's mind as to the process that's been adopted through decades and will remain so in that way. And the reason is very clear. You wanted to ensure the widest possible support within the members as you as members. And a 50+1, essentially, to be frank, would not cut it. You wanted something larger, and that 2/3 majority is there. And so what we wanted to ensure is provide clarity and certainty to members in relation to the 2/3. Again, recognition to ensure broad support of members. If we go to the provisions, please. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is not focus on the electronic vote issue. We'll come to that at the end because there are issues on electronic voting in some of the documents, and it's easy to have that discussion at the end. So the substantive, there are some minor changes about the delegates alternate, but it doesn't change anything. The substantive changes at the bottom. You scroll down, please. And essentially what it requires is that you as Congress have to reach that 2/3 majority. That's the requirement. And you will have to agree. Now, you can, as Congress, in any event, change the regulation at the time if required. But the intention here was to cement the 2/3, to insist and to have that clarity for members about what majority is required to appoint the Secretary General. I'll stop there and open the floor.
Any questions, comments, suggestions? No hands raised. So all of you agree, we can proceed. Yeah.
So let's move on to the transitional periods. Next slide, please. Next slide. Perfect. Thank you. So what we're looking at here is this handover period. So essentially, a Secretary General-elect designate is appointed June-ish of the preceding year and then comes into office in the January. Now, previously, there were no provisions as to how that handover would take place. What authorities does the incoming Secretary General have with regards to activities that take place with the predecessor still in office? So this is about having a smooth transition of power. This is what this is focused about. It's about ensuring that there's collaboration between the two, the outgoing and the incoming, and to ensure that continuity. So essentially, there are two substantive parts of it, or there's three here, but really there's two substantive parts of it. It's about activities that are taking place within the organization. The Secretary General incoming will have to be informed of those policies. And any substantive changes, there needs to be that form of discussion. So there is no surprises. The second and more crucial element is the appointments process for senior positions, P5 and above. Essentially, the rule says that you really shouldn't do it. But if you do, it has to be an emergency, some exigencies of circumstance, something unusual. And there has to be collaboration. Remember, the idea here is to avoid those surprises. So this is a smooth transition of power. If you go to the provisions, please.
Yes.
So here we're looking at Regulation 153 firstly, And there's some minor editorial comments I won't comment on. So if we look at 153, Regulation 153, that simply refers to the requirement that the incoming Secretary General should be informed of all changes that will impact the Secretariat, and to ensure that the incoming Secretary General has the technical and administrative support required during this 6-month transitional period. Then we have Article 4 of our staff regulations and rules. And here, the focus has been on ensuring that recruitments at the P5 and above are not made unless exigencies of circumstances. Again, to avoid the fait accompli, to avoid something which is a surprise. I'll stop there. I leave the floor open.
Any comments or suggestions?
Zealand, then Tanzania.
May I request New Zealand, please?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I think this should be fairly minor, but sorry, we're on Annex 5, was it? Regulation 153, just confirming that's what we're on. And then if we scroll to the bottom of the page there, I think it was B. There was a proposed couple of edits by New Zealand that I don't see reflected. Just the outgoing Secretary General shall take such measures as required to ensure that prior to taking office, a Secretary General designate. Yep. Thank you.
Tanzania, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. We really appreciate for the proposed improvement in the legislation to bring more clarity and ensure efficient and effective work of the Secretary General. And just a few issues. There is a reference, I think, to B regarding major decision. I don't know if it is still there. And we wanted to know if that is quantifiable, if it is mentioned somewhere, which are those major decisions to bring more clarity. And then the third issue is in C, where there was a reference to the benefit. Now, it's a little bit problematic, the benefit. I think what we meant, maybe this Secretary General elect is provided with the technical and administrative support during the transition period. But I leave it to you, but I think it will improve the readability of it. And then the other issue is the transition period. I struggled to find if it is quantified somewhere. I think it will be very useful to know that transition period. Is it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or 1 month, etc. But otherwise, if it is remain opened, is it 6 months? Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments or suggestions? I see no more hands, so we can proceed for the next.
So just very briefly. On the benefits issue, I think probably that is something that members have to consider. I don't necessarily think that would be problematic. On the the major decisions section, I'm loathsome to start defining everything as the lawyer. Some things I think I'd have to leave to the discretion of the Secretary General and their incoming. That would be the advice I'd proffer. But if we go to the next slide, which is on the campaigning rules. So here we've been looking at how individuals compete for the position of Secretary General. Currently, there are no rules that govern how this process takes place, how they're supposed to compete, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. What are staff members permitted to do if they want to compete for Secretary General? How are officers of the organization are supposed to conduct themselves in the conduct of a campaign? So again, this is bringing the WMO into the 21st century. And in that regard, we've divided it into two parts. The first part deals with staff members who want to compete for the position of Secretary General. That's the only position they're eligible to compete for. And in that regard, we've divided it in two. We've looked at putting staff members on half pay. The idea is if they want to compete for the Secretary General, they must leave the organization on a special leave. So in other words, they cannot continue their work as part of the Secretariat. Because if you can imagine, having a position within the Secretariat does give you prominence. You don't know me, but now you do. So it does give you prominence. And so in that regard, it's important to have those people separated, at least during their campaigns. And for that reason, we place the staff members on special leave with half pay. Now, in addition to that, we're going to have a code of conduct that governs how staff members compete for that position, before they announce and after they announce, what they can and cannot do. And of course, if there is breach, there are misconduct proceedings that can follow. In relation to officers of the organization, there will equally be a code of conduct that will apply to them in the conduct of how they use their campaign time and what they can and cannot do. But these rules don't only apply to staff members and officers of the organization. They will also apply to the Secretary General, him or herself. So everybody is covered in some way by these rules. We go to the provisions, please. So the first provision is in Article 1 of our staff regulations and rules, and that is essentially placing a staff member who announces their candidature on special leave with half pay. We go down to the second section, please. The second area is in relation to a code of conduct for staff members competing for positions of competing for the position of Secretary General. And there are amendments provided by New Zealand, which are mostly of a technical nature and don't change the rules themselves. It's just merely tidying up exercise. The next slide, next provision, please. Keep going down. The next area, as I say, will apply to the contract of the Secretary General. The Secretary General is not a staff member, so the staff regulation and rules do not apply. So what we have to do is bring in the provisions of the staff regulations into her contract. And so that's what we're doing here. And so essentially, the code of conduct will apply to her or him, and the provisions of any allegations of misconduct, since they cannot be reported to our internal oversight office, they will apply the Oversight and Investigation Service in New York, the United Nations. Keep going down, please. So in relation to officers of the organization, there is already an existing code of conduct. So we're adding additional paragraphs which copy in totality the code of conduct for staff members. And so we've called this the standards of conduct simply because there already is a code of conduct for officers. So this is an additional set of provisions that cover that process. I will stop there and open the floor.
Yeah, may I request Pakistan, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a point of clarification. I think I have a couple of questions. So what happens if a staff member who, let's say, loses the election, he comes back from his congé, the half pay that is given to him? That's number one. And when we say he'll not use resources, WMO resources, just wondering, I mean, probably at the cost of sounding a bit cruel, wouldn't drawing a half salary wouldn't count as resources that he's drawing from WMO? And yeah, so those are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Daniel has covered 3 annexers, so there should be some comments and suggestions.
If there's no more other comments, I'll take the floor.
Yeah. Any other comments or suggestions online? No. Germany, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just for this edition of the help desk, I wanted to ask if it's realistic for the Secretariat to resource a help desk. Perhaps our Ethiopian colleague can explain the background, and then we could formulate it in such a way that it is manageable for the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, my intervention was about the help desk. What should I understand the help desk function? That was the first one. And the second one is just for making myself sure that the clause which is used and reads officers, EC, and committee members includes candidates for those positions, not only current members running for election, possibly. Is that correct understanding from my side, that it includes anyone who seeks the position in EC or any other commission or official position? Thank you.
There is no other comments. I request Mr. Daniel to respond, please.
So in relation to the first question, yes, they can return to WMO. In relation to the issue of resources, so look, we had many discussions on half pay, full pay, or no pay. And there are pluses, there are benefits and minuses to all three. And so the conclusion was to go with half pay for the advantage that people still have obligations, financial obligations. They're still, technically still have a job, and it has impacts on their pension if they stop pension contributions, health insurance. There are substantive implications for their benefit package if we did not pay them whatsoever. If they're based in Geneva, there may also be issues with respect to their ability to stay in Geneva. So it was decided that the easiest option was half pay, not full pay, and not no pay. So that was where we landed. You can have an opinion either way, but I just think that was essentially the conclusion that was drawn, and I'll leave it to you to decide if you think that's fair. With respect to the help desk, I just would point out to you that prior to the elections, the Secretariat already publishes information for candidates and the processes that will be followed. So there isn't a necessity to have a help desk. If you wish to have one, you obviously can have one. There will be problems about how it will be staffed, what assistance and information will be provided. over and above that which is already provided by the Secretariat. So I would ask you to think carefully as to whether you would want such a thing. And I wouldn't quite know how it would function, to be frank, at this stage. In relation to this, this particular set of rules, the Code of Conduct, it is only for officers, EC and committee members, because they're the ones who have the standing to be subjected to these provisions. Essentially, they're the ones who have the advantage over anybody else because of their position. So it doesn't apply to people outside of those three categories. I'll stop there.
I hope all the points raised are responded. Yeah, again, may I request Pakistan, please?
Thank you, Chair. I think, thank you. That's very useful. So just reading 2.1 with 2.2, I think 2.1 says that, you know, the person who wants to contest for an elected post must inform the president of WMO in writing no less than 3 months prior to the date scheduled for the election of such intention. And I think 2.2 says that upon submitting such written notification, he'll withdraw from the work. And then 2.3 for the entire campaign duration, right? So I think the maximum, so for instance, let's say I'm eyeing an election in the next 6 months, right? The obligation to withdraw from WMO, technically speaking, is only before 3 months. So for the entire duration, let's say, 6 months or 7 months, I am sort of canvassing, I'm working in the WMO, and the legal obligation to withdraw from WMO and go on half pay, it's only 3 months prior to the election campaign. Is that, is it how I understand this? Thank you.
No, I completely understand the confusion. No. So essentially, separate the announcement from the obligations about when you're competing, because you could unofficially compete, right? So you could unofficially effectively use WMO resources well in advance. These rules prevent that because it simply says staff members shall not. And essentially, the idea is, regardless of whether they're placed on special leave, prior to, if they announce early, then they're going to be placed on special leave well in advance. So the later they leave it, obviously they're even more restricted about what they can and can't do. But before they announce, they still can't use WMO resources. And they're very much restricted in what they can do. Essentially, it's an unofficial campaign, and unofficial campaigns are very difficult to run.
May I request Uganda, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. So Uganda has requested the floor to raise an issue related to 6.0. We are looking at 6.1 and 6.3. Clearly to us, 6.1 and 6.3 are both talking about resources. And so our request is, can we merge 6.1 and 6.3? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. May I request USA, please?
I hit the wrong button.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. Actually, just a quick point of clarification on process. Is this time allocated for general comments and questions, or are we actually, or is there an intent to go through the annexes one at a time to look at potential changes?
Yeah, so this was the idea, was you go through the changes, make the possible alterations, and then if there's issues for a drafting committee, we'd have the drafting committee, and then we'll do the approval at the end. So this is the opportunity to raise any concerns and any amendments.
May I request Pakistan, please?
Chair. So you just mentioned that they could continue or they could start with an unofficial campaign. Could you please clarify that? Because I think it's probably a bit difficult for me to wrap my head around this, but I think the legal obligation to go on half pay, as far as this text is concerned, it only comes into play when I have to announce my candidature in writing, right? So before that particular moment, I think the unofficial campaign would definitely precede that time period. So I think, is there any space or scope that we envisage in these rules for the unofficial campaign? And if that is the case, that an unofficial campaign is a reality, and that's probably what a lot of candidates would be doing, are there any rules of conduct of how you're supposed to use WMO resources while you're conducting your unofficial campaign? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe Secretariat could respond to the Pakistan question first. I think that would be helpful, and then I'll come back.
Okay, Mr. Daniel, please.
So again, so when we look at it, all these provisions is about their campaigns, official or unofficial. So they're not allowed to use resources at any time for any type of campaigning. And because we haven't put after they've announced, it essentially covers any type of activity. And bear in mind, they're UN staff members. So if they're doing such a thing, it's an unethical, it breaches our codes of conduct. And it's something that can be reported as an outside activity. So it's incredibly dangerous, if I put it that way, for a staff member to undertake such sort of action. And so this is what this code of conduct reinforces. So whether you call it official or unofficial, it makes no difference. They cannot use WMO resources or stand on a WMO podium unofficially trying to promote their candidacy. I'll stop there.
May I request Germany, please?
Yes, thank you. Just back to the help desk, if we're going to take that into the drafting team, because we didn't have we had a response from the Secretariat that it's not clear what would that be, how it could be resourced, but we haven't had any further background to bringing it in. Whilst I can understand the motivation, I think it doesn't quite fit in with the other points in there, and also we've had a response that says it's not clear how it could be done. So happy just to say that's going into the drafting team. Yeah.
We can take it into draft. May I now request Australia, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was also going to speak to the help desk point. I hadn't considered a drafting team kind of scenario. I just wanted to express that based on the explanation provided by the Secretariat around perhaps some of the complicating elements to set up a help desk, and that there is already many opportunities for information around election processes provided via websites, et cetera, that our position would be that we don't require this paragraph for the creation of a help desk. That there is already provision in the standard way that the Secretariat works, that this information can be made available to those interested candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request Canada, please?
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is a process question, because I would like to request that we take a look at where things landed with Section 4, with Article 4, but I don't know if that has already been addressed, or this is what is being discussed as part of discussion in the drafting team. Thank you. So with respect to the change that has been proposed in section 4.2, Canada would like to request that the original text found in the staff regulations, Article 4.2, regarding the recruitment and maintenance of staff on a wide gender basis be retained. We strongly support the value and benefits to the organization of having not just the geographical, but also gender balanced in the appointment of staff. So the language in this article is aligned with the WMO's strategic commitments and past Congress resolutions, where gender balance is a foundational requirement. And I would like to take the opportunity to remind colleagues that WMO's Gender Action Plan was adopted 10 years ago at the WMO Congress in 2015, and it sets the expectation for gender equality across all WMO structures. And more recently, Congress approved an updated WMO Gender Action Plan in 2023, which outlines concrete actions in areas including resources and governance. Most importantly, we also note that the regulations were opened on the understanding that the changes would only address necessary updates to the procedures governing the election and the code of conduct of the Secretary General. So we therefore request that the original text in Article 4.2 of the staff regulations and the rules of the WMO on the appointment and promotion be retained in line with previous decisions and the procedures of Congress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I now request USA, please?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, a couple of points and a question. First, just in response to the comments from Canada, which we acknowledge, this does continue to be an important point for the United States for the reasons that we explained this morning in the morning session. We did have two more comments, actually one more comment and a question. The first is just to express support for the previous comments from us, Australia and others, that we, for the practical reasons as explained by Daniel and resource implications, we wouldn't support the creation of a help desk. And we had a question to clarify a proposed modification from New Zealand that was in, I believe, Annex 7 and bringing irregularities to light. There is a proposal to delete item 6.1, which requires reporting to the IOO of any violations. And we were just wondering if we could have an explanation for that proposed deletion. Thank you.
May I request now, Barack, please?
In any case, next time violates code of.
It's just that you're.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I would like to take you to 6.1, where you're mentioning several officers. You mentioned officers, EC members, and also committee members. I would like to get an explanation. What do you mean by committee members? Because I don't really have an idea who are. Do we have some committee members, or I seek for an explanation on that.
Thank you. May I now request UK, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Firstly, I would like to say how strongly I support our colleagues from Canada on the need to retain the reference to gender balance in Staff Regulation 4.2. We really should not be considering this. The staff regulations are outside the scope of the task force's remit, but in any case, gender balance is a goal we have long advocated for within WMO It is vital that WMO can recruit, retain and promote the brightest and best regardless of their gender, but unfortunately women are still underrepresented despite the excellent progress we have made, and we do feel removal of this phrase would send the wrong signal that WMO is retreating from that strong commitment we've made through the Gender Action Plan and elsewhere. And if I may, while I have the microphone, I would like to support the many comments about the help desk. Both I have concerns about how it would be resourced, as the Secretariat have said, but also it gives candidates a route to advice that is not available to all. So I think it's actually better that we stick to candidates using the published documents, and then we know everybody is using the same advice. Thank you.
Before I proceed to request other comments, may I now request Ethiopia to take the floor, please? Do you like to withdraw your comments or to continue? I think he's there. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. The head of the delegation is out just for a brief moment. Maybe if we can return to this one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fine. Thank you. We'll come back to you. May I now request New Zealand, please?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I think two things I need to address. First of all, I'll take the Annex 7, 6.1, 6.2, as requested by our US colleague. Thanks for the question. Our understanding was when we read 6.1 and 6.2 in the original text, it was repetitive. Therefore, we simplified it by deleting one and having the other. Second point, if we go back to Article 4 and the discussions that we've been having around the deletion of text in, I think it's 4.2 of Annex 4, Article 4. Maybe this might help the discussions. You'll see the New Zealand edits there, changing capital M in members to lowercase m. The reason we did that, if you look at the current Article 4 that's in WMO document number, basic documents number 1, staff regulations, the text available is all lowercase m. If that's the case, then paragraphs 4.1 through 4.6 didn't need to be in the annex at all because it was all original text. So to keep it simple, it doesn't need to be there. Therefore, the proposed edit to 4.2 isn't actually necessary. And if I haven't explained that properly, I'm happy to discuss it or answer any questions. Thank you.
Would you like to respond so far, the comments?
So in relation to committee members, we have PAC, we have TCC, there are a number of committees. Any committee that we have formed within the organization obviously would be subject to these rules. I will leave the gender voting issue for the moment. And as for the help desk, I just need to have some clarity as to what the position, actually the members back for Ethiopia, as to whether they wish to retain that specific provision.
Thank you, Vice President. Yes, that's correct, but they are EC members. So I don't see that there is a need to further place them as a special body here in this document. If you are an EC member, you have to only to mention it once, and not that if you are a part of the PAC as EC member, that you would also be a part of the committee, like I mentioned.
May I request Stefano, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just a moment. There are, of course, a number of bodies reporting to the Executive Council that are not composed of members of the Executive Council. And in fact, when the previous Code of Conduct was adopted, those were not taken into consideration or did not exist. For example, the Research Board or the Joint WMO-IOC Collaborative Board and so forth. So there is a variety of composition of bodies. And perhaps these bodies, in fact, are not covered currently by the Code of Conduct. So you may want to consider to extend it to all the bodies that are working for WMO, fundamentally. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Switch was off. No, thank you for that explanation. Yes, I think that is in that direction I was thinking. So it is about the bodies of the WMO, not specifically a body of the EC. So I think committee here is not the right word. I will suggest to change it and put it as the different bodies that we know from the WMO. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now I can request Denmark, please. Denmark.
Thank you. It works now. Thank you very much, Vice President. I can be very brief. I just want to express my support to the point of view expressed by our Canadian colleague and also the British colleague concerning the Article 4.2 and the suggested deletion from the US delegation, which covers the gender balance question. I think it's questionable for us to jump into this discussion right now. We have in front of us a document which is in fact a relevant update of our policies to the question which was posed by the Congress, and I think we should stick to that and discuss that. Starting to discuss equality, it's a profound policy of WMO and UN and for Denmark as well. So I don't find myself ready to do anything else but support Canada and UK in the very clear positions which was expressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May I request Switzerland, please?
Thank you, Vice President. I would like to, first of all, thank the task force for its important and comprehensive work, and we support the 2 new articles proposed by the EC Task Force for the elections and adopted also by EC 79. Regarding the proposed amendments to Article 4.2, Switzerland supports the interventions by Canada, UK, and Denmark to maintain the existing Article 4.2. Article 4.2 in the staff regulations is fully aligned with the current WMO strategic plan and also the WMO Gender Action Plan, both adopted by Congress 19. And we therefore do not wish to see the staff regulations amended as proposed in Article 4.2, as we seek to avoid inconsistencies with already adopted documents. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, may I request Germany, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. I will also be brief and emphasize our support on the matter of the importance of gender balance from the previous speakers, but also very much as expressed by Denmark. We are here this week with a specific focus. We are struggling with the time to make the decisions that the last Congress asked us to make. And so we shouldn't be opening up issues that have not been tasked to us by the previous Congress. So as New Zealand said, we really do not need 4.1 to 4.6 as part of the decision. We just need to make it clear that there are two additional points, 4.7 and 4.8. So we shouldn't be deleting, modifying text in 4.1 to 4.6, but focusing on what is important for the election and appointment procedures so that we can have good, efficient elections and appointments with a good code of conduct in the next Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request Ethiopia, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. Concerning it 6.18, we thought having help desk in Secretariat to support the candidates, that was our intention. So if it makes complicated, we have no objection to withdraw. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. May I request France, please?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Dans la ligne des nombreuses interventions précédentes, je voulais également témoigner du soutien de la France au maintien en l'état des provisions du paragraphe 4.2. Nous sommes ici sur des questions essentielles de fonctionnement de l'organisation, mais qui dépassent largement le cadre de la discussion sur les élections telles qu'elles avaient été confiées à la task force. Et donc, dans la lignée de ce qui a été habilement suggéré par nos collègues néo-zélandais, nous aimerions nous en tenir là. Merci.
Thank you. May I now request Iceland, please?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and all the members of the task force for all your work on this document. I'd like to express our support to Canada's, UK, Denmark, Switzerland's, Germany, New Zealand, and France's position. The mandate from CG19 was clear. It was to review and suggest amendments for election and appointment procedures for leadership positions within the WMO, including the WMO Code of Conduct. But these changes proposed to the staff regulation from the USA on the topic of the appointment, transfer, or promotion of the staff are outside of our scope. I propose that we keep focus on the tasks we already have at hand. We will have trouble keeping our time schedule as it is, and we do not add other discussions to the agenda, and we keep the text as it is. Thank you.
May I request Monaco, please?
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Vice-président, et pour être extrêmement bref, je soutiens ce qui vient d'être dit par l'Islande et d'autres préopinants. Je vous remercie.
May I request Indonesia, please?
Yes, indeed, Indonesia also would like to support for point 4.2. It's regarding regarding the gender balance. So we would like to suggest not to delete that sentence under the yellow color, gender balance. Please keep it in that 4.2 as suggested as well by UK and France. This also consistent with the spirit of United Nations as well as WMO. So again, please put in place not to be deleted the sentence with a view to achieving gender balance. Thank you.
Thank you. May I request Burkina Faso, please?
Thank you. I would like to support the position of Canada and New Zealand, France about the Van der Waals, and I would like to say that with proof of the inclusion of gender balance in this session. So I would like to support the view. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request Spen, please?
Muchas gracias. También desde España y en referencia a este apartado 4.2, consideramos necesario mantener la relación que había, la redacción que había previamente, no hacer ningún cambio en estos momentos y mantenernos en el mandato recibido del Consejo Ejecutivo. Muchas gracias.
May I now request Japan, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Japan is also to keep the gender balance the sentence as the other many countries support had said. Actually, in Japan, in this week, we had the first female prime minister, and then we are very, very expecting her to work. Thank you.
May I now request Belgium, please?
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je tiens à m'aligner sur l'ensemble de mes collègues. Je ne veux pas être exhaustif dans l'énumération. Je tiens aussi à dire est aussi à l'ordre du jour de notre gouvernement et je pense que l'égalité des genres n'est qu'un cas particulier. Voilà, je vous remercie et j'aimerais qu'on puisse progresser dans l'ordre du jour. Merci beaucoup.
So thank you. I think we have overwhelming support for Article 4.2, and we can go for some other comments and suggestions, if any.
Let me do.
Pakistan.
Let me concentrate.
Yeah, Pakistan, please.
Thank you, Chair. What the colleague from Japan has said, I think we'd also like to join the chorus. In Pakistan, we had the distinctive honor of having the first female prime minister from the Islamic world. She's unfortunately not with us, but to honor her legacy and many others to come, we'd also like to maintain and retain the reference to gender balance in Article 4.2. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, yeah, we have now overwhelming support towards this article. So if there is any other comments, you are requested to put forth your comments and suggestions, please.
Don't go through the list.
Hmm?
Let me speak.
Yeah, otherwise I request Mr. Daniel to respond.
Switch your mic. So I suspect, judging by the room, and I'm not very good at reading it, it sounds like that won't actually pass. And what's important here is if there's no consensus in relation to this and there's no appetite to go any further in relation to that, the original wording will remain. So that would be the approach that I recommend at this stage, unless later on, maybe tomorrow, you have a different view. So my humble suggestion is to put the wording back in, and then we'll carry on with the remaining part. And if there's a view that they want to go further in relation to this, then we can explore alternatives. That would be the recommendation, because I'm very conscious of the time. So with that, if we can put the wording back in, if with your permission, we can proceed.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Okay. So with that in mind.
Okay. Please. Yeah. Yeah, I understand some members want floor. Therefore, may I request now Mexico, please.
Muchas gracias, señor vicepresidente. Y simplemente para coincidir con el resto de la sala y compartir que México también tiene por primera vez una mujer presidenta.
Australia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just wanted to make sure before we move on, if that was the intention that we were moving on, before we do so, that we capture the consensus also regarding the help desk. And we thank very much the distinguished delegate for Ethiopia for his response. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Yes, I also would like to go further to 4.7. There is where we are discussing and we're putting in as a line that the outgoing Secretary General, and then they will end with Secretary General designated. I feel a little bit uncomfortable with the outgoing Secretary General, and I think maybe we have to look to our delegates from New Zealand and ask them if it is well deserved to put their outgoing Secretary General. So that is actually my intervention, and I would like also to acknowledge, to inform you that we have a Prime Minister, a woman Prime Minister since 1992. Thank you. So.
Yeah. May I request Ghana, please?
Thank you very much. I also just want to support what Canada and the rest of the team in terms of maintaining the original test. And that's also highlighted from the high delegation meeting that was held. Our minister also mentioned for Ghana, we've also for the first time had our first vice president. And we are also expecting this will continue to encourage more women into the field and then for the profession. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we have to move on because of the time constraints. I was told by the Secretariat. So now I request Mr. Daniel to please go ahead and recognizing the support from different corners for this 4.2 in original form.
So the help desk will be removed as well in terms of the provisions. So let's go to the appointment of the new slide, please. PowerPoint, please. So in relation to the appointment of Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Secretary General, as it currently stands, the Secretary General can select whomever he or she chooses to perform those functions. The Executive Council has an overview function of that selection process and approves those positions. It's not a backseat driver as such. So ultimately, it's the Secretary General who makes those decisions, but the Executive Council has this overview to ensure that they approve those positions. Now, what is being suggested here is to ensure that going forward, all selections for ASG and DSG are by a mandatory competitive process, and that will be through resolution of Congress. And the other part is to ensure there is a balance between technical and administrative fields within the organization. So currently, we have an Assistant Secretary General to my left who has the experience in the administrative elements of the organization. And the Deputy Secretary General has the scientific part. So essentially, you have a balance between the two. So the idea here is to maintain that sort of professional outlook between the two ASG and the DSG. If we go to the particular provisions, please. It's one resolution and one regulation. You have to keep going down. Yeah. So this is the resolution, and it's the decides part of the resolution. Stop. Down. Keep going down a little bit further down. Stop there. Perfect. Just to inform, no changes here, but just to ensure that there is a competitive selection process going forward. If we go to the next resolution, going down to Regulation 4.2, ignoring the gender balance issue, we're looking at B here, and this is to ensure that there's this balance between the technical and administrative fields within WMO. So we're looking at 4.2B only, and that was the suggested provision to put forward to you for consideration. I'll stop there.
Any comments or suggestions? Yeah, may I request Finland, please?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We discussed earlier these qualifications of the Secretary General, and once we choose non-scientific expert, the Secretary General, I think that it's a question whether we would still favor ASC, who is having also this kind of administrative background instead of scientific and technical background. So therefore, I think that we have to reconsider this, whether it makes sense to have two persons who may have very administrative background instead of scientific and technical. So I think that it doesn't make sense to specify them so carefully, but it's up to the Secretary General to choose the right team which is complementing his or her competencies there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doesn't read that.
Yeah, may I request Pakistan, please?
Thank you, Chair. I think in B, our preference would be to add relevant before experience. And then I have a question. I think when we say that WMO shall conduct a competitive selection process, would like to hear from the Secretariat what that competitive selection process entails, whether this process is already in vogue, and if there is such a process, which I'm sure there is, to select most suitable candidates, what we envisage now in B is a similar process, like what is happening already, or we're trying to go and somehow remodel this process in order to make it more competitive. So yeah, so just some clarification regarding competitive selection process, please. Thank you.
Germany.
Yeah, may I request Germany, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Just referring to the intervention from my Finnish colleague, and my understanding of what was written there is that it does what the Finnish PR would like. So it says the executive management, that is the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General, and the Assistant Secretary General as a team should have this competence. So yeah, I think so. That is my reading of the text. So if the Secretary General, him or herself, has particular competency set, then she or he will be looking for the balance set within the whole team.
Any other comments or suggestions? Online? No. So may I request Daniel, please?
So the answer to, again, I would agree with Germany in this instance. The idea is have that balance in the executive management in totality. With regards to the competitive selection, it's a recruitment advertiser position. It's what we do within the organization. It's what we define as competitive selection. So you advertise a position, there's a panel that's set up, you submit your candidature, there may be a test, there may be a presentation, and essentially that's the process that would be envisaged by the competitive selection process. It's in fact what took place on the last occasion. So if there are no other comments, I can move on to the next section.
There is no hand raised so far now again. So you can proceed for the next one.
Okay, so the next part is the Executive Council elections. And again, I repeat myself, but for those who had the pleasure of it 2 years ago, it did last an exceptionally long time. When I was trying to prepare this presentation, I could either tell you what the existing rules are, which are a little complicated, or suffice it to say that what we're having here is, instead of a two-tier process of how we compete, there's one election process for all the seats. So it's simple for you to understand, and it's simple for us to explain what the process was and what the process is going to be. So essentially, it's what we euphemistically call a big cut process, which essentially is you have all the seats that are remaining seats. And say, for example, this safe argument, there are 5 seats. The maximum number of candidates that compete for that position, can compete for those seats, will be 10. And if, for example, some of those seats are filled, say there are 3 seats left, the maximum number of candidates that compete for those 3 seats will be 6. We cut each time. So essentially, the idea is to have a clarity in how we do this. Before, we used to divide it into two separate election processes with 2 separate set of rules for the first 4 seats and then the remaining seats. Here, the idea is to have one process that's easy to explain and that hopefully will result in fewer rounds and will allow us to go home in the evening. So I'll stop there. If we go to the actual provisions, please. So the big cut principle I was explaining just a moment ago is actually enshrined in the second set of elections. And what we're doing is bringing those forward so they apply to all the election processes. I don't want to, again, focus on electronic voting. We'll come to that in a minute. But in terms of the regulations here, what we're suggesting here is that we have one process, one set of elections, and one explanation instead of the confusion we had in the past. This will resolve the problem, and it does provide clarity for you as members. There is one amendment, there is one substantive amendment by Ethiopia that does not change the rules and provides clarity for those candidates, where if there is the same number of seats for the same number of candidates, then there's no requirement for an election. But I will stop there and pass it over to you as members.
Yeah, floor is open now for comments and suggestions. It seems there is no comment or suggestion. Okay. So can we proceed for the next one? Yes.
So no love is lost for the previous process. I get that. So if we move on now, the last 2 changes, so we're almost there. The last 2 changes, the first change, we go back to our slides, please. So the next set is to deal with proxy voting. And for those who have the privilege of being on the technical commissions, they will have an understanding of exactly what that means. But essentially what we have in WMO, we don't have any rules that govern proxy voting. What we have is a practice with nothing written down. And in this instance, I would advise you strongly that you need some codification of these rules, because without which practice tends to be quite diverse as to exactly what is proxy, how many votes each member can use as a proxy. So here what we've done is simplified the process, we've clarified the process, and we've tried to align ourselves with the UN Common System of exactly what proxy voting is and how you can use it. So if we go to the provisions, please. The essential element here, to be frank, is one proxy, one vote. One member, one proxy. So in Regulation 64, the provision is there, and it essentially says that you're only entitled to one vote, one proxy vote per member. And that essentially lays out the provisions of what you can do and how it would work. Again, this is the codification of practice and alignment with us with the UN Common System. I'll stop there.
Floor is open for comments, suggestions. Yeah. May I now request Russia, please?
Спасибо, господин председатель. Российская Федерация не согласна с инициативой ввести процедуру так называемого голосования по доверенности в соответствии с представленным проектом резолюции. Не убеждены в необходимости данной процедуры. При этом считаем, что она несет ряд конкретных рисков. Обычная практика выборов в органы международных организаций предполагает соблюдение строгих процедур, включая присутствие на местах всех голосующих. Это важно для обеспечения прозрачности, установления кворума и самого хода выборов. Голосование по доверенности, по сути, подразумевает возможность большего числа голосов, чем присутствующих в зале делегаций. Это идет вразрез с принципом транспарентности и дополнительно усложняет и без того непростые процедуры, которые мы стремимся сейчас упростить. Это может подорвать доверие членов к выборам в органы Всемирной метеорологической организации. Считаем также, что это размывает принцип суверенного равенства государств при принятии решений, если кто-то сможет голосовать заочно через другую делегацию. Кроме того, нам неизвестно о широкой практике применения в организациях системы ООН голосования по доверенности, тем более введенной путем изменений в уставные документы. В связи с этим предлагаем удалить соответствующие пункты из резолюции. Благодарю за внимание.
Yeah. Since there are no further comments, we can proceed for the next one. Oh, may I request Belarus, please?
Спасибо. Мы выражаем поддержку позиции делегации России, высказанной по вопросу голосования по доверенности. Необходимости в этой процедуре мы также не видим. Считаем, что для обеспечения прозрачности процесса голосования необходимо личное присутствие. Спасибо.
Thank you.
Yes. So just on the proxy voting issue, the problem is we currently have proxy voting. So it's not that we don't practice it. So the question is, are we looking to have a provision where we prohibit proxy voting? In which case we'd have to draft that provision, because currently that's what we practice within the organization. So all we were doing was codifying that which we already have.
May I request the gentleman, please?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Me again. Just to be very clear, we want to have proxy voting and we want to have a procedure that is transparent. So I think that the transparency of the procedure, I hope, will allay some of the concerns of my colleagues from Russia and from, was it Belarus who spoke? I didn't quite catch that. So we want a transparent procedure, but we want proxy voting because it really enables us all to have a voice, even if we should be in a position for whatever reason that we cannot travel to a meeting. So in our, and because we have challenges sometimes with connection online. So we really want to have the opportunity for every country to have a voice in our delegate bodies. Thank you.
May I request Russian Federation, please? Russia, please.
Да, спасибо большое, господин председатель. Уважаемые коллеги, мы здесь все исполняем свои обязанности по соответствующим распоряжениям наших правительств, являясь постоянными представителями при Всемирной метеорологической организации. И мы обязаны их исполнять четко, а значит, являться на все совещания и на все голосования, проходящие в рамках Всемирной метеорологической организации. Если вдруг мы не можем принимать участие, для этого у нас есть постоянные представители наших стран при международных организациях в Женеве, которые могут исполнить за нас эту функцию. Я считаю, что у меня вот вопрос к докладчику, да, а что нам нового привнесет эта процедура? Какие у нас будут от этого улучшения, если мы не будем являться сами на голосование и не будем исполнять четко те поручения, которые дали нам наше правительство?
Yeah, we are running out of time. What's the last comments from Cameroon, please?
Merci et bonsoir à tout le monde. En fait, nous voulions pas totalement appuyer l'intervention de la Fédération de Russie, mais juste demander à ce que la procédure précise exactement dans quelle mesure la souveraineté de chaque pays sera respectée, étant donné que la voix de chaque pays revient de la représentativité de son gouvernement. Il faudrait que dans cette procédure, que ce soit clairement défini, et je pense bien sûr que ça permettra de satisfaire aux interrogations de la Fédération de Russie et de la Biélorussie. Merci.
Yeah. Do you want to respond? Immediate response, something?
Quickly, and then we'll
Yeah.
Switch your role. We're finishing.
Yeah, we're finishing now.
No,
Be great. Okay, so in relation to the proxy voting, what essentially what the practice was, or what the practice has been, has varied. So different times, the proxy voting countries have had more than one proxy vote. So they're able to, different members have given their proxy vote to more than one another member, which is something we're trying to prevent. The second issue is that the difficulties with travel for certain members who have very small delegations, particularly to the technical commissions and the places that they meet, means they can't always attend. And when it comes to the voting, in many instances, the voting is going to be in the room. And so what you want to try to avoid, just as advice, is to discriminate against certain members who may not be able to attend those small meetings in those various locations. So we're trying to stop two practices: one where proxy voting is expanded to more than one proxy vote, and second, to encourage participation of all members when decisions are being taken. That was the intent.
Thank you. So we have come to the conclusion of today's session. The remaining parts of the discussion will be taken up tomorrow. And I am told that drafting committee meeting will be held today itself. And all the points which have been raised, the suggestions, the comments will be taken care by the drafting committee. Yeah. Anyone else?
Спасибо большое, господин председатель. Очень хорошее предложение проработать все комментарии в рамках редколлегии, но прежде чем приступить к этой работе, все-таки я бы хотел услышать одно пояснение. А эта процедура будет распространяться на все выборы в рамках ВМО или только на выборы, допустим, комиссий, комитетов и так далее, исключая исполнительные органы?
So at the moment, it applies to everything. If we go to the drafting committee and there's a discussion, maybe if you want to limit it to certain entities, you can do that. So, not to the governing bodies, right? Not to the governing bodies. So we can do that, but we can have that in the drafting committee, which I think is in C2, and that might be a resolution.
Yeah. And anyone can join drafting committee? Yeah, anyone can join in the drafting committee. Thank you very much. I thank all of you for your cooperation and effective session. Thank you.
Now. Yeah.
It's 5 to 6, and there will be Norway volunteers to be the chairs.
Committee will be organized during 5 to 6 in C2. All are requested, those are interested to join the drafting committee. Thank you all.
Was that?
Just to remind, excuse me, just to remind all the delegates that the drafting committee on document 4 will be in Salle B, just in front. Thank you.